Hi everyone. Word sounds are all the rage in singing right now. We need them for lyric clarity and intelligibility. We need them to share meaning. We need them for expression. We really need them to connect with our audience. So I'm a speech language pathologist. I thought it would make sense for me to talk all about word sounds today. So here we go. We classify word sounds, specifically consonants, in a couple of different ways. One, by the manner in which we create them, and two, by the place in which they're created. So today we're going to go through the different manners of sounds, and we're going to talk about where they're produced so that we can produce them appropriately. The first one is just kind of going through the terminology. Bilabial means two lips coming together, so like a b or a p. Labiodental means your lips and your bottom teeth come together. Interdental means the tongue kind of comes out between the teeth to create the consonant sound. Velar means the base of your tongue contacts your soft palate. Alveolar you're going to hear a lot about today. So everybody take your tongue and go put it right behind your top front teeth and slide it backwards. Do you feel that ridge there, that kind of bump behind your top front teeth? That's called your alveolar ridge. A lot of sounds happen there. When the tongue contacts the alveolar ridge, it makes a lot of different sounds in a lot of different ways. So you're going to hear that a lot. Keep in mind, that's the alveolar ridge. Palatal sounds, those are made when the middle of your tongue contacts the middle of your hard palate, kind of where the hard palate and soft palate come together. And then glottal sounds, these sounds happen specifically when the vocal folds come together to create the articulation. Glottal sounds you have to be really, really careful with, because when you make the sound too harshly, those vocal folds are slamming together, and we want to be really, really careful and safe with our vocal folds, because that's how we sing, that's how we talk. They're really, really important that we treat them nicely. Okay, so our first class of sounds is called plosives. Sometimes they're called stopped consonants, but I like to think of them as plosives better because I like to think of a soft burst of air instead of the sound kind of stopping and then restarting with the vowel afterwards. So we're going to go through them, but these are the consonants across the top row up here. So let's look a little bit more carefully at our plosive sounds. So first, how is a plosive sound created? Well, like I said, it's a short burst of breath energy. Like we said, it's sometimes called a stop, but it's better to think about moving the air forward into the vowel so you carry that energy forward. The plosive sounds from the front to back are P and B. Those are bilabials, or both lips coming together, so P and B. Then we have T and D. Oh, there's our alveolar ridge again. The tongue comes up to the alveolar ridge and it taps it gently, just enough to stop the airflow and let it go again. So that's T and D, and those are alveolar sounds. K and G, that's a velar sound, or the base of the tongue coming up and gently touching the soft palate. And then you do have a glottal plosive sound. So that would be like, uh-oh. The beginning of that uh-oh is a glottal sound. With plosives, every sound has a voice and a voiceless pair. So that means that everything stays the same except you turn your voice on for one of them. So let's try it. Let's try T and D. Say T first and touch your throat while you say it. T, 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 t. Now say D. D, 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 d. Do you feel the vibration that happens in your throat when you say the D? It's because you turned your voice on. Now say them back to back. D, t, d, t, d. Notice that nothing else changes except your voice gets turned on. So this is just a quick look at how our tongue creates the sounds, just a different image instead of words. This is what the tongue does when it's forming these different sounds. So we have the labials, the bilabials here. And we have the alveolars here. You can see the tongue coming right up against that alveolar ridge right here. And then down here we have our velars. You see how the arrow is pointing where the base of tongue is contacting the soft palate. And then here Oh, way down here, that's where the glottal, it's indicating that the vocal folds are actually making that sound. So how does this impact our singing? With singing, we want the burst of the breath to carry into the consonant, so the energy carries through the vowel and carries that forward motion through the rest of the phrase. We can also use a quick burst to add emphasis for a certain word that we want impact. So when we think about some barbershop songs, right? Anytime we have vocal percussion or we have any kind of those bum-bums or doo-doos or doo-wahs, doo-dahs, any of those sounds are all rhythmic, and they're not carrying meaning, but they're all percussive sounds with little plosives at the beginning. And these plosive sounds facilitate that percussive rhythmic feel for us to keep that forward motion, keep that beat within the song. So a lot of times when, especially our basses are doing the bum-bums and doo-wahs, you can add your emphasis to the plosive at the beginning, and it will help you stay in the tempo a little bit better. Another one that I think about plosives is good old acapella, right? So g, k, p. All of those sounds are happening, and right, we have sounds so doggone sweet. All of those plosives are in there. You've got the C and the G and the K. And so when we sing this, it could be very, very choppy if we used a stop feel to that. Good old a cappella sounds so doggone sweet. It would feel very, very choppy. But instead, if you think about it as more of a plosive, leading a breath energy into the vowel, it can actually create energy and excitement going through the phrase and have a little bit more phrase connectivity with the consonant into the vowel. So that's one way that we can use plosives in our singing. The next word class is fricatives. We hear a lot about fricatives, don't we? So here, it's this row right here. I put a little key at the bottom here for certain sounds that have symbols. This is in the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is symbols representing sounds for every word that any language can produce. But we're specifically concentrating on English because you have to sing in English to sing barbershop. So here, the theta looking thing is the voiceless TH. So that's th. And the other one, it's called an ev, for anybody that cares. And that's the th, or the voice TH sound. This one, this is called an esh, if anybody cares, and it makes the sh sound. This is called an ej, for anybody that cares, and it makes a zh sound, like measure. Cool, so moving on. Fricatives. How do we make them? Well, a fricative is actually a small constriction between the articulators. So articulators are, we talked about, those two pieces of anatomy that come together. So it's a small constriction between the articulators, creating turbulent airflow during that consonant production. Wow, that's a lot of words, isn't it? Really, it's just our structure squeezing the space that the breath moves through. And so it creates some turbulent sound or kind of extra airflow sound. Moving from the front to the back, our labiodental, or our teeth on our bottom lip, is the F and the V sound. Then we have our interdental, or our tongue and our teeth, is the TH, both TH sounds, the th and v. And then we have the palatal sounds, sh and zh. And then we have the H sound is actually a glottal. You have both voiced and voiceless sounds in your fricatives. So it's important to keep in mind that everything stays the same, but only the voice turns on. Especially for that TH, we tend to think of sounds, word sounds, as letters, but they're not always letters, right? TH together, the only way that can be distinguished is if it's voiced or voiceless. So just keep that in mind. And here again is our picture of how things are created. So, you see the F with the teeth on the bottom lip, and same thing with the V right here. Our palatal sound right here with the sh or the zh. Notice that here it tells us that the voice is turned on for that. Here is our interdental sound. Again, the tongue creeps out between those teeth, you should be able to see somebody's tongue when they say the th sound. We don't stick it all the way out, but it's there. And same thing with th, and then the voice is turned on. And then again, here we have this one, it says the voice is turned on, but if you try that, it actually does, if we want the air to come through the vocal folds to create an H sound, our vocal folds can't be together. They're just kind of really, really close, like it shows right here. Okay, so how do fricatives impact our singing? Well, a little bit of fricative goes a long way for our meaning, right? So we have natural air turbulence that makes those fricatives differently audible. So we notice that they're there because they sound different than the other sounds, right? So because of this, we don't need increased air intensity like strain or press, because it will actually create distortion in the fricative sound. Try that with me. Try and make a V sound with lots and lots of air energy, right? It almost starts escaping through the lips. So a little goes a long way with a fricative, and we don't need to do a whole lot of extra with that. Also, these are singable consonants. I know we use that to actually mean voiced or voiceless, but I think about singable as actually being something that we can sustain and it's voiced. So you can sing a V or a TH, voiced TH, for as long as your breath energy is going to hold out. A Z sound, zzz. And the nice thing for that when we think about singing is that fricatives are actually, like we talk about below here, these are semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. So you can actually use them to work on a vocal warm-up and work on releasing tension in your vocal mechanism while you're producing these fricative sounds. You can sing lots of different things, arpeggios and octave slides and other things on fricatives, and they're a semi-occluded vocal tract thing. Okay, and so some barbershop examples. We have Ain't He Sweet? That's often in a medley with Yes Sir, That's My Baby, right? So there's lots of fricatives, and there's emphasis and energy that continues the vocal line in that. So if we're thinking about Yes Sir, That's My Baby, right? It's the fricatives add emphasis, but it's constantly moving forward. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe, right? It's moving, 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 and the fricative doesn't interrupt the flow of that. Another song is Fly Me to the Moon. So if we think about this one in particular, F's are really easy to underplay, and in this song, it would change the meaning of that. It moves on to Sail Among the Stars, right? And so if we think about not using those fricative sounds, we lose meaning, which really impacts our expression and our lyric clarity. So fricatives are really important in the songs that we sing. Okay, so our next word class is affricates. Affricates are actually a fricative and a plosive stuck together. So that's right here, this word class, and there's really only two. This IPA symbol means ch, and this IPA symbol means j. All right, so moving forward, how do we make them? A plosive and a fricative stuck together becomes an affricate. So we have a burst of air that it moves into a somewhat consistent turbulence. Okay, you can't hold an affricate forever, but you do still have that turbulent quality to the sound. Moving from back to front, we really only have two. We have ch, which is a alveolar palatal, right? So your tongue moves from your alveolar ridge to your palate, right? And that's a T plus a sh sound. And you can actually say it slowly and realize if you start saying it slowly and then speed it up, that it really is the t into the sh, t, sh, t, sh, t, sh, t, sh, ch, right? So it happens quickly. And then the j sound is actually a D plus a j. Both counterparts, it's important to know, both counterparts in an affricate have the same voicing pattern. So it's a T and a sh are both voiceless, or a D and a j are both voiced. All right, and this is where affricates are made, right there. They move from the alveolar ridge and then they move to the palatal placement. Okay, so what's our singing impact for this? Well, when we think about as singing, we can emphasize certain sounds in the combination for musical expression or effect. So some songs that come to mind for me are Land of Jazz, Take Me to the Land of Jazz. It has a jazzy feel, and the rest of the word has a fricative in it, right? Z is a fricative. So when we think about that song, it tends to be that the singing impact is more put on the fricative in the combo than it is on the plosive. Take me to the land of jazz, right? It's not really, really impactful because it matches the rest of the word and the feel of the song, as opposed to this joint is jumpin', right? And that impact is more on the stopped consonant or the plosive consonant because that matches the rest of the song and it also matches the rest of the word in each word in the phrase. So that's something that's really interesting to think about, is that sometimes based on the feel of the song or based on the rest of the phrase, we may put more emphasis in one part of that affricate rather than another. We also tend to, especially with affricates, we may play with voicing to add impact or meaning for our expression. So sometimes coaches will say, put a little ch in your j. And so we'll play with voicing as well, more so with affricates than with other sounds. Next word class is nasals. Nasals. Nasals and liquids are the hardest, right? So here we have the nasals, and you see in the chart. I also put here, this is called an engma for anybody that cares, and it represents the ng sound, or ng stuck together. Okay, nasals. How do we make them? Well, the soft palate moves down. There's actually a flap of skin called the velopharyngeal port, and it's a flap of tissue that comes down to divert airflow through the nasal cavity instead of coming through the oral cavity like it does for all our other sounds. The tongue position still matters for this though, because there's minimal airflow that still is going to escape through the oral cavity. But for the most part, the airflow comes through the nasal cavity, and you can test this by plugging your nose when you say a nasal sound. So try that. Say the M sound. Now plug your nose while you're sustaining it. The sound stops when you plug your nose because the majority of your airflow is actually being diverted through your nasal cavity. So, moving front to back, the bilabial sound, or both lips together, is the M sound. The tongue to that alveolar ridge again is the N sound. And the base of the tongue to the soft palate is the engma sound, or the ng sound, the ng stuck together. All nasal sounds are voiced. And the weird thing about this is if you tried to make a voiceless nasal sound, you'd really just be blowing your nose. So all nasal sounds are voiced. Moving forward, here we see, I drew in this little VP port here because the picture was not actually accurate. So you notice that this little flap of skin comes down and the airflow comes up through here and then out through the nose. But the tongue position still matters, and that's demonstrated in each one of these pictures. Okay, so what's our singing impact of nasals? Well, consonants don't make overtones. No consonants make overtones, but because the vowels make overtones. But some consonants bleed into other sounds, the vowel sounds, more easily than others. And nasals are these sounds. Nasal sounds co-articulate, which is a word that we use that means they bleed into another sound, impacting the clarity of that sound. Usually a nasal is going to bleed into a vowel sound, which especially for singers is going to impact the clarity of that vowel sound. So we think about saying the word man. Now say the word tab. Notice the a sound is different when you say man versus tab. Or we can even keep it in the same place, right? So let's do bat and man. So we've just changed plosives out for nasals. And the vowel sounds completely different because the nasal is impacting the vowel in that word. So we have some specific examples. Notice I used man because I think loving that man of mine. that nasally sound just continues through the end of that phrase, and it's really hard to come out of it. And then we also have, in this particular one, we can think about, at last, my love has come along. In the end, my love has come along. Again, it's really hard to get out of that nasally sound impacting those vowels, especially because it's moving really quickly. When it's a target big fat vowel, we can usually really focus on eliminating or lessening the nasal sound, but when it's happening really quickly, it's hard to come out of that nasal sound. Another one is as long as I'm singing. I'm singing. We even do it on the I, which happens before the M, because we know the M is coming. Sometimes our brains get in the way, right? So you can hear that as long as I'm singing my song, it's really hard to keep the nasal out of the last part of that. So we really have to think about focusing on the vowel to give it its due, lock, and ring so the chords line up nice and together. Okay, our next class, notice we're getting to the bottom, but there's a lot of stuff here, right? So we've got liquids. Liquids are our next word class. Sound class. When we talk about International Phonetic Alphabet, we actually make the R upside down because the R the right way, or right side up, is the rolled R. So they distinguish that by making it upside down. So that's why you see it upside down in the chart. Moving on. All right, so how do we make the liquid sounds? These are the most like vowels because it's a partial closure and it's the least constrictive of all the consonant sounds. In fact, when we talk about R, we often talk about R when it's attached to a vowel and we treat it like a diphthong, or we talk about R coloring. So moving front to back, the L happens in that palatal place, right? The L happens in the alveolar place, excuse me. Again, another alveolar sound. L happens in that alveolar place, and R is a palatal sound. R is tricky. We all make R a little bit differently. Some of us make it by scooting the front of the tongue back and bunching the middle of our tongue up against that palate. And some of us make it by actually turning the tip of the tongue toward the back of the mouth. It happens both ways here in America and across the world. Lots of people make the R differently, which adds to the challenge of singing liquids. Also good to know, all liquid sounds are voiced. And this is exactly what I was saying. L's even can be different. Sometimes we put the base of tongue, depending on where it is in the word. We put the base of tongue up and it's up at the alveolar ridge. And sometimes it's just up at the alveolar ridge. And then look at all of these different R productions. There are all these different ways that you can make the R sound. You can bunch your tongue. You can curl your tongue. You can point the tongue tip at the top of the mouth. R is different when it's attached to a vowel. It's different at every vowel it's attached to. Are you noticing what the challenge is going to be when we get to our singing impact? Yeah, there are so many different ways to produce that R sound and even the L sound that it's hard to unify our vocal production for this and not distort. Not to mention, again, these R's and L's, these liquid sounds, do tend to color that vowel as well because they're most vowel-like. So you can sing for days and days and days. Well, maybe not, but it has all kinds of distortion in it. And we do the same thing we do with nasals with liquids. If we know that R is coming, we tend to put it in the vowel before it. So it's really hard to unify our production of an R and an L sound because there are so many different ways that we make it. And sometimes we're not even aware of what our tongue is doing when we're making those sounds. So thinking about some barbershop songs that impacts, My Foolish Heart. Oh gosh, we have an R and an L in there, right? So Foolish Heart is not as much of the L creeping in there, but heart, oh my gosh, we sing heart how many times and it's always jumping in there, that R sound. It really does impact the potential for our ring when we let the R distort the vowel or the L distort the vowel. Another one is Auld Lang Syne. So now we have the liquid and the nasal together, and we're just in trouble in this one, right? Because both Auld Lang Syne, the L is in the first vowel, and then we're keeping it for the second vowel, which is already thinking about a nasal for the last. And then by that point, we're already in a nasal, and that's what we're staying in. So we really have to be attentive to our vowels. Are you noticing how it's not just about the consonant sounds, but if we want to ring chords, we have to ring them on the vowels, and we have to let the consonants convey meaning and then get out of the way. All right, our last class of sounds is glides, okay? This in IPA, what we look at as a lowercase j is actually represented as the y sound. So that's why you see that right here. Okay, so how do we make these sounds? Glides are essentially two vowels that are blended together so seamlessly that they create one consonant sound. With this, we have the y sound, which again is a palatal sound. We think about it in singing as an E plus an stuck together, y, right? You can even put some more to the E on that, y. So your tongue essentially does what it does for an E sound and then just releases. And then for oo, we say that it's a palatal sound, or sorry, a velar sound, but really we're just kind of making that oo sound. And a lot of people just relax their tongue to kind of the oo position and then release with that, wah, wah. Again, all glide sounds are voiced. And because the tongue position mimics a vowel position, I did more of a front of the mouth approach for this one so that we can see we want some lip rounding with the oo, for the oo at the beginning of the wah. Whereas the ya has more of not so much of a wide approach as this looks, but you can see kind of where the tongue is placed in there. Okay, and where's our barbershop impact? Where's our singing impact here? Well, when we have glides, it's easy to do exactly that, glide. It's easy to scoop or slide from one pitch to another and not maintain the same sound on the consonant and vowel in the same syllable. So it's easy to kind of scoop within the syllable, making the consonant and vowel different notes. A good example of that is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Somewhere over the rainbow, right? We can really, really scoop it. And when we sing barbershop, there's no place for that. Scoops are for an ice cream shop. So we really have to make sure that we're making a lot of attention. We're giving a lot of attention to those W sounds so that the W is at the same pitch as the R, is at the same pitch as the vowel that comes after it. So glides really lend themselves to scooping, and that's one of the things that we really want to look out for when we're singing those sounds. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that this speech pathologist opinion and explanation was helpful and made more sense to some of the word sounds that we care so much about so that we can sing with more meaning and more expression so we can have more audience impact.